stations. I remember Miko Hicks. She lives in Dallas. She has a weekly radio show. She used to have, when Blog Talk Radio first started, she used to have a talk show called Tea Time, I believe it was. And every week I would be on her show, and it was just a call-in, show. So I would mostly be on the phone. It wasn't video like we do today. And she never used my name. She used to always call me the distinguished gentleman from Michigan. And one day during an argument with one of the other panelists on the show, I was getting probably a little out of pocket, and somebody called me by my name. Troy Kennedy, calm down. I said, oh, I clutched my pearls. I said, oh my God. How do you know me? Oh my goodness. And, it just made me realize that, what I was saying carried weight. Then, a few years later, Diamond Styles, Diamond lives down in Dallas. We, again, on these forums that we were in, she said, well, I need a guy to interview. And, no guy will speak up. I was like, what the hell I look like? And so I drove to Indianapolis. She was visiting her grandmother after Thanksgiving, and we taped an hour-long conversation. So it was something that needed to be done. I know a lot of Black men in my own personal life, some who will admit it, others who won't, who mess with the girls. The more I became open, the more that I was able to see. And the more people came to me and talking to me about it. So I just decided that someone had to do it. And I was allowed to be on 2 different women's forums, her platforms, to speak out and to make a difference. And that's, and I owe that to them, and to them giving me that choice.
Well, Troy, that's amazing. I'm gonna be honest. I take my hat off to you for having the courage, because I know our people. I know how they are. Now, when you are dating a trans woman that feels that, do you feel that the trans women that you have dated separates themselves from the gay community that they first grew up in, and now that they feel that they're women, and you say, well, let's go support Pride, or let's go support this group, or let's go support this, or let's just go have, and she says, oh no, I'm not a part of that anymore. My life is different now. Have you met girls like that? Because I have girls here that tell me that I don't do those gay things anymore. I don't go to drag bars. I don't do shows.
I've never dated a woman like that.
Okay, wonderful. Now, do you see any change in the way things are going now, with men becoming more open to dating trans women, or do you still think men are just, hiding? I mean, because basically people aren't thinking about the fact that they're trans. People don't think about that. The first thing they always think is you're either gay or you're bisexual or you're straight. That's just how normal society looks at anything, no matter who you're dating. Because if they say you're dating a trans person, the first thing most women would think is that you're gay.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you a little story. I'm gonna tell you a story about my own family. Okay, I've told this story 1,000 times. The term heteronormative, I don't really think is really a real thing. And I'll use the males in my generation and the next generation in my family. So it'll be my brothers and I, and our male children, including my sister's male children. I have 2 brothers. One brother, it would be called heteronormative. The other, he happens to like the girls too. So is my brother, who is heteronormative, is he normal, or is my brother and I normal? Okay, now let's go with the children. There are 5 boys. The oldest one is gay. The second one, he likes trans women as well as cis women. The next 2 are gay. And then the last 2 are heteronormative. So, who's normal? The difference between my family and everybody else's family is that we live our truth.
Okay.
There's that.
Now, I understand. I understand it very clearly. Now, do you think that in reality, in real reality, like you say, living your truth, do you think trans women that you dated thought that the relationship could lead to something really positive besides just sex or company?
Well, my the 10-year relationship that I was in at the time, the marriage laws, her name wasn't changed. Getting your name and your gender marker changed wasn't easy at that point. I mean, of course, over the years, laws have changed and things have become different. So she didn't want to get married and it be just a symbolic wedding. Today, that would be different. Her gender markers changed, so it wouldn't matter. But yeah, I wanted to get married back then. My first real, what do you call it? What is the word? What's his word? Monogamous. My first monogamous relationship didn't happen until I was with the woman I was with for 10 years. I didn't know how to be in a monogamous relationship until that point. So we knew that it could be more. But again, as we were evolving, society was evolving. And there were some things that I didn't know yet. Again, we're talking almost 20 years ago when we first got together. I'm not the same man that I was 20 years ago, nor is she the same woman. But mind you, we're very close. We'll always be very close because, again, my children call her mom. But I was in 2 other relationships, one for a little more than a year, another for 2.5 years. One was an older girl, one was a younger girl. So there was definitely more than just sex. I mean, we supported each other. I supported their work. One did drag and was an entertainer. The other was a musician and an activist. And even though we did kind of fall out ugly in an ugly manner, but still, that's what me as a man. What I want in a relationship is a woman who I can grow old with, even though I am old, older, mature, well seasoned.
Okay.
So I'm not just looking for a sexual relationship. I mean, in these last few years, sex isn't the most important thing. What else you got? I can get a pretty girl. What else you got?
Now, let's just say you're out with your friends. Now, I want to say this because for me, I understand the different ways of sometimes the way trans women look and act. So I think now, Troy, you're very funny. Now, let's just say you're sitting in a bar and you say, well, my girl's coming to pick me up or to drop the keys off for me to go do something or this and that. And you're in the bar, let's just say you're sitting around a bunch of the guys and things are going well. And we know these are just typical situations, whether you're hanging out on the porch, drinking beers and shooting the shit, or whatever it may be. Now, she comes up. Now, sometimes trans women can sometimes be bigger than the man. Sometimes have stronger features than normal women. And people figure this out real quick because we live in a sexual world. So people are constantly sizing up each other. Now, have you ever felt really uncomfortable with the trans woman you were dating?
I mean, in the beginning, again, as I've said, there's levels to this. In the beginning that I was, I can remember a time when I was married at the time. I married the same woman twice, by the way. That's another long story that we won't get into. But I remember being out with a trans woman, and I used to run a paint store years ago, and I ran into one of regular painters who come in the store, coming out of a restaurant, and I was embarrassed. I was shocked. I didn't know what to do. I panicked. I felt some kind of way. And I think that was the first and only time that that had ever happened. And again, this was in the in the late 90s. And it impacted me, you know, how she felt, you know, how I made her feel, the cowardice that I showed. But fast forward to, you know, a few years back, and I was on a date and we went to a Buffalo Wild Wings, and she hadn't had her name and gender marker changed. She was, you know, passable, even though passability is very subjective. And I know she was feeling some kind of way because she had to show her ID. And I grabbed her and I kissed her in the mouth. I said, "Come on, baby, I'm hungry." She knew why I did that. And she was shocked. But it's just like, you were feeling some kind of way, but I wanted to let you know I don't give a fuck. You know, so, oh, excuse my language. I cussed. It's sorry.
It's okay.
But, you know, so again, even through all of these years, no one has ever come up in my face and said anything to me. And maybe because, you know, I'm a bigger guy. I'm like 6'1". I'm like, you know, about 232 now because the Rona made me fat.
Oh, it made all of us fat. Trust me. I'm not really fat, but I'm bigger than what I used to be, Troy. Trust me, I put on like 15, 20 pounds. I used to be weighed like 150, and now I'm like 170 something. I'm like, ooh, just only in the belly area and the breast area. But anyway, now, are you in a relationship now?
Nope.
Okay. Are you looking for a relationship? I mean, because Troy, when you think about it, you've had a lot of experience. You've been in a relationship for 10 years. You have 2 children, grown, which I'm sure has been, you know, the challenge.
I'm a grandpa too.
Oh, and a grandfather too. Oh, that's amazing.
Well, actually, I'm 2 pops.
Oh.
That's what my grandbaby called me, 2 pops. She don't call me grandpa. That's not for me.
Okay. So are you actively looking for a relationship right now? What is the difference? No, this question first. What is the difference between dating a trans woman and a cis woman?
I will tell you what my 12-year-old son at the time, my youngest son, he was 12, what he told his mother. He said, "Mama, ain't no difference between you and her. Both y'all crazy."
That's very funny. Okay. Now, do you think for the LGBT pronoun community, and especially the trans community, do you really believe from all of the meetings that you're doing and the platforms that you're speaking on, do you really feel that these women feel like they matter and that they can find a positive relationship today?
Well, I mean, if you want to talk about matter, and we're literally in the era of Black Lives Matter, but 2 trans women were just one was dismembered and put in a suitcase. And I'm sorry, I don't have her name to speak her name and say her name. And another young woman was recently murdered right after that. And before that, Iana Dior was jumped by a mob of men, just like Malaysia Booker was jumped by a mob of men. Do they matter? So especially, do they matter to Black people, to the Black cishet community, the cis heteronormative community? Let me use the full name. When trans women say and they feel that they don't matter in this Black Lives Matter movement, I understand that. I can't speak against that. I can't get angry about that. I can't say anything about that. Because all I can do is support and amplify that voice, because what they're being shown is that they don't. So, but for me and what I do, they matter. I'm going to speak up, and I'm going to be vocal and visible.
Okay. Now, what do you think? Why do you think Black men feel so threatened by trans women all the time to harm them?
Well, I think, first of all, you have to take a step backwards. We haven't been taught the differences between gender identity and sexual orientation. Those are 2 entirely different things. Taking a step back further, We don't understand how we are impacted by religion, mostly Christianity, and colonialism. And so we don't know our history. We don't know the history of trans people and how indigenous cultures all around the world embraced trans people. They were shamans. They were healers. They were revered from in different cultures all over the world. And yet, with colonialism, with religion, with patriarchy, trans women have been demonized. And so, because Black men have their own thing that we've gone through slavery, through Jim Crow, through this 400 years of oppression, and then being viewed as, alpha males, dominant males, holding on to our manhood in such a way because at times that's all we had. There's a problem. Most men don't go through therapy. Most men don't know how to talk out their issues and talk out their problems. So there's a number of factors that leads into it. And we can talk about all of that, but let's talk about accountability. There's one thing someone told me, and Alexis, I'm gonna give you a shout out. Alexis told me years ago, you took a bite of that tranny apple, you're never gonna give it up. She said this to me in probably 19, maybe 88, 89, 90. And I never, at that time, I didn't know what that meant, but I didn't know how true that was. And what happens with a lot of guys, they can, they might during the day, yell something disrespectful to a trans woman, but they're going to be in her inbox that night. And so most men are hypocrites and cowards.
Oh, yeah. I know.
And you can't, they're not accountable for or brave enough to just to stand up and say, this is what I like and this is who I am, because they're living for other people. They're living in their fear. And that never stops them from fucking with the girls. I cussed again, from messing with the girls. And so that hypocrisy is what I talk about. You can't say that you don't like something when, especially when Backpage and Craigslist were out and all that stuff. And on Craigslist, you can find, thousands of ads in the big cities for men, M for T, men seeking trans women. You'd find all of these ads for women escorting. It wasn't just two dudes in every city buying all the escorts. So we are in a supply and demand economy. You look at trans porn, and it's one of the biggest genres of porn out there, and has been year after year after year. So the numbers, the math doesn't lie. You can talk about your religion, you can talk about what you feel, you can talk about what you believe, you can talk what you believe is morally right and wrong, but the math doesn't lie. And the math says that men, cis heteronormative men, knowingly pursue trans women for sexual encounters.
Now, Troy, that you just said that. I wanted to add, I've asked this for a long time, and nobody could ever give me a straight answer. Maybe you can clear it up for me. Now, as you know, trans women, like I said, sometimes with the way they look, sometimes with the way they act, but a lot of them, even today, with all the resources that we have to make our lives better, and programs like we didn't have before that are now available to us. And yet sometimes they take these things away, they give them back, they take them away, just sort of some of the privileges that trans women, not trannies, oh, that's such a derogatory word, but I wanted to ask you about that. It's on the tip of my tongue too. I'll ask you about that in a minute. So that's why I wanted to say it. About the advantages of all these different programs now. Why is it, a lot of these women can't get jobs, normal jobs, because society doesn't look at them as female. Now, but when they go and they escort or they do these T-girl porn videos and they're making money to try to survive, and whether or not they're making money for other reasons, why do you think, if America or just anywhere in the world hates the trannies and the trans women so much, which they call them trannies. This is what I was trying to say. They don't call them trans women. They just call them trannies, and meaning a derogatory word. Why do you think they chastise them so much for the escorting and the porn videos and stuff they do to make money?
Well, because most people choose to remain willfully ignorant, and they don't understand the challenges that trans women have, especially Black trans women have in gaining employment. I've had the pleasure and the ability to hire trans women. My ex-girlfriend used to work for me. One of her friends was an esthetician that worked in one of the spas that I ran. I was a district manager for some spas, and she worked there. And I hired another girl when I was in food service. Well, actually, my manager hired her. I didn't hire her. I was her manager's boss. So I understand the challenges that trans women have. And so, again, I'm looking at it from a point where, I've seen women try to get jobs, or the young lady who worked for me as an esthetician, when she demoed, she was the best. She gave the best demo, but she happened to be trans. The manager that I had working for me told my head esthetician that you can't hire her because she's trans. When I came back and I found out that she was not one of the two people that she hired, when she had the best by far demo, well, that makes no sense. And so I had to discipline my manager. So again, it's about evolution. 20 years ago, that probably wouldn't have happened. But I was in a position where I could do something and I can help. So I don't just talk about it, I be about it. So people don't understand the struggles that trans women go through. They don't understand that there's truly survival sex and doing porn and things of that nature just to eat, just to put a roof over their heads. Because trying to go out into society, a society that hates them and shuns them, and to get a job, making minimum wage, that's not going to pay the bills. Come on. So, you have to understand, the ball field that you're playing in, and understand the rules if you're going to be in the game.
Now, I want to go back to the tranny thing. Now, I hear a lot of that within our community, and a lot of the times when the guys get mad at you because you won't go with them, or you won't date them, or you won't have sex with them, they call you a tranny. It's like the B word when they call women when women won't do something that they want. So, now, what do you think because most men, I'm sure they're not going to go, that's a trans woman. And most men, I'm sure you've heard them say tranny.
Because I run with a lot of guys who date trans women, one of my running buddies, happens to be a trans amorous man as well. So, or even with my brother, we say that's one of them right there. There go one right there. That's one of them. And so there's nothing derogatory about it. But again, because I'm a guy who's out and open and vocal. People don't talk like that around me. They know better. Okay. So a lot of guys' realities who date trans women, their realities aren't my reality, because again, I'm someone who has been kind of out here for a while. So people in my professional life, in my personal life, in every aspect of my life, kind of know that. So they know better.
Okay. Now, we're going to wrap it up here shortly, because I think I got a lot out of you. So that was good. Thanks. Now, what's your advice? What would you say as just a man in general, open to dating trans women? And what's your advice to them, instead of them having their back up right away, what would you like to see happen with trans women and being more open, even though they come from a place with men that are generally not good? How are they to trust a man? What should they look for?
It's hard for me to answer, because I am not in your pumps, so to speak. But I guess the best advice I can give is don't lead off with sex, because sex is easy, and men don't look at sex emotionally as women do. We just don't. We just
Okay.
don't. You know, so and especially if you lead with sex, you know, most guys will be like, okay, you know, been there, done that. Next, I mean, you know, you got to get a chance to talk to someone, know somebody. But we're in an age today where people talk by text, which I hate. But that's because you know I'm well seasoned. Uh, they don't have real conversations. We're in a cancel culture. We're in a place right now that we don't have real conversations. So because we don't have real conversations, we don't even have real conversations with our own selves. So we don't know how to have conversations with each other because we don't listen. And we don't even know how to listen to ourselves. So it's all about some self-reflection, being able to listen, to see what you see and believe what your eyes tell you, and go from there. You know, there's always going to be guys who run game, just like there's always going to be girls who run game. So, you know, protect yourself, love yourself, and don't settle. I guess that's my best advice.
Oh wow, that was amazing, Troy. I just want to say I want to thank you for being on the show today. You gave us a little bit of insight into your story and into you cleared up a lot of things that I think concerns me in a sense of what I'm looking for in a man. And it also cleared up to show the girls that there are some men out there that will treat you right and will, you know, do the right thing by you. We know a lot of times religion and other factors, shame, guilt, denial, all gets in the way of us moving forward. But like you said, is most people don't want to have that conversation. But one day we will need to have that conversation. And it's good that we're starting now small, because a lot of times people say, well, why are we just talking amongst ourselves? The good thing about all of this is now we have social media. So you're not just talking amongst yourselves, we're actually talking to the world. This video will probably go everywhere, even after me and you are gone. This video will still be circulating and teaching people that there are good people in the world and there are hopes for the trans community, that people will love them, care about them. Yes, we're going to have a lot of knuckleheads out there that are going to do a lot of bad things because they just don't understand or just don't care. But for us girls out there that are looking for a positive relationship and just the mere fact that we belong, there's hope. And men like you, Troy, have opened my eyes to that. I would have never have thought that, like the girls say, a brother would come on and stand up for us. And that is amazing, amazing. So I take my hat off to you and congratulations on your channel. Now, if we wanted to get hold of you, other people that just really feel like they need somebody they can reach out to, how do we get a hold of you?
Well, on YouTube, I have a page called Ask a Transamorous Man. I haven't put a lot of fresh content on it. This is going to be something that I'm going to put on the page. So there's that. On Facebook, Troy Kennedy on Facebook. On Twitter, I am Buff, BuffBlackwell, Buff Blackwell, Buff Blackwell. You can find me on Twitter. And my men's group with my buddy Jonathan, the Trans Supportive Brotherhood. If you're a man and you're out there and you're struggling and you have questions and you just want to talk to your peers, we're there. We have great discussions in the group. We post articles. We argue. We fuss. We fight. We have Zoom calls. We do all of that. But we're there for you. We're there for each other, and it's a great, great thing. So,
Well, thank you very much today for giving.
Let me leave you with one thing, and it was something that my ex's dad reminded me of, and I like to share this. When my father was, first trying to deal with his son dating a trans woman. I introduced the two of them. They had very similar stories. They both were in the Navy, both worked at the post office and retired and all this other stuff. They reminded me a lot of each other. And he told my dad, I had a choice to either embrace and love my daughter or lose my child, and losing my child wasn't an option. From that moment on, my father never questioned me ever again. So if, older people, people in their 70s, when he was in his probably, 60s at that time, and my dad is 83 right now, if they can understand and change and adapt and evolve, then anybody can.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Well, thank you, Troy, so much. Amazing story, amazing enlightenment for us all. So I just want to thank Mr. Troy Kennedy today on my show for talking about dating women, dating trans women and cis women, and cis and trans men who date cis women. Made a clear understanding for us today that there's some support groups out there for you if you need help and you're struggling with who you care about or who you want to be in a relationship with. So I just want to say, when you're looking for a partner in life, just understand that love is love, and sometimes you have to see through the bullshit to understand that you matter, the person that you're with matters, and that your journey through life is not going to be easy, but you have to fight for what you want. And the good thing about all of this is that, Troy, you stood up for a community that you didn't have to. And you stood up for something that you believed in. And that's something amazing. And the trans women need to understand that and learn to do that for themselves. So thank you very much for being on my show today, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank Mr. Troy Kennedy for being on my show. I'm getting a little hoarse here because I'm tearing up because you had such an impact on this conversation for me. So I just want to say thank you guys so much out there for supporting the Stephanie Stevens Show. And until next time, we will see you guys again. Stay safe, be strong, and love each other. Good night, everybody. Bye, Troy.
Bye.